Hi, this is Bishop Craig in Lansing, and this is Take One for the week of January 29. Peace be with you. I spoke with Pastor Joan Herbon this weekend, and she asked me to thank you for your prayers. I believe her son will be posting a Facebook update about Pastor Joan this week, so I invite you to look for that. I am also praying for Pastor Rihanna Goodrich and the people of St. Matthew in Bridgeport. Pastor Rihanna informed the congregation this week that she has accepted a call in the New England Synod. Her last day will be Ash Wednesday, February 21st. We're really happy for Pastor Rihanna and her family, and we will really miss them. So we wish them Godspeed as they begin this transition. Pastor Ellen Sheff at Faith in Okemos informed her congregation that she will be retiring the end of April. Pastor Len Dahlgren informed Edgewood and Fruitport he will be retiring the end of May, and Pastor Rebecca Ebspies informed Zion and Woodland that she will be retiring the end of June. So we have some changes happening. On the other hand, we are delighted to welcome Pastor Robert Martin and his family from Florida. Pastor Martin will be installed as pastor of Christ Lutheran Church in Michigan Center this Sunday, February 5th. So welcome, Pastor Martin and family. The reading for February 5th is more of the Sermon on the Mount. Jesus talking about saying you are the light of the world, you are the salt of the earth, and talking about his teaching in relation to the law of Moses. And the first thing I would note about this is I really get nervous when we preach on Jesus' sermons, but because what we tend to do with them is turn them into our sermons in which we want to tell people what to do. Don't. Because Jesus is being more descriptive than prescriptive, if you will. Jesus is saying you are, not go be. You are the salt of the earth. You are the light of the world, not go be the salt of the earth, not go be the light of the world. And so what Jesus, I think, is saying is you're different. You're salt, you're light. Jesus makes us different. That might be the good news. Jesus makes us different. The second thing I would note is that when Jesus says you, he is not talking to individuals, he is talking to communities. So he's talking to the church. The church is to be this, or the community of faith is to be salt and light, right? Because all of us, each of us on our own, are not salt and light. We do that together. And the third thing I notice is that salt and light, if you have too much of it, it's overpowering. I'm remembering when I was a small kid and my older brother and I decided to make oatmeal, only we got teaspoons and tablespoons confused, and instead of putting in 3 teaspoons of salt, we put in 3 tablespoons of salt. I could still taste the salt in that oatmeal, and we were just little kids. So salt seasons, it flavors. It brings out the best flavor. And light is only helpful if it illuminates what's in the room. If it's a floodlight that overpowers, I can tell you, you can't see any better than if you were in complete darkness. So we are to be salt and light as the church, which is probably not like big, bold, and overpowering. And what Jesus is saying is kind of don't become that. Jesus didn't say go become, salt and light on your own. Jesus is declaring us salt and light. Jesus makes us salt and light. And what he's saying is let the salt and the light that is in you come forth. So don't, for the salt, don't lose your flavor. Don't become bland. And for the light, don't hide it under your bushel. Well, when Jesus says, let your light so shine, what he's saying is let the light that is in you come out. Don't block it, right? Because we can understand why we might want to block it if Jesus makes us different, because being different means that we stand out. It means that we get noticed. It means that it might be uncomfortable. It means that we might make others uncomfortable. I mean, that's what Jesus did. He stood out. He got noticed. It was uncomfortable. He made others be uncomfortable. And he ended up on the cross. But God raised Jesus to new life to declare that Jesus' way of being salt and light is God's way, right? What we want to do is stand out in ways the world likes or appreciates, so that we'll be kind of popular and successful. And I don't know that that's always what it means to be salt and light. So since we're talking to communities, you are the salt of the earth to a community, that might be a good thing to talk about, is what salt is in us, what light is shining in us that makes us unique and different as we proclaim Jesus and the reign of God. And what are we doing to block that, right? And then Jesus talks about the law of Moses and says, don't think I came to abolish the law. What I think Jesus is doing is showing his connection to what has gone before. He is reaching into the tradition and giving it a contemporary interpretation. And if you read on in the Sermon on the Mount, you see that that's what Jesus does. You've heard that it said, you shall not murder. And everybody's going, nope, I'm not a murderer. And Jesus says, but I say to you, if you get angry, right? So Jesus is contemporizing the law of Moses. What Jesus is also doing is making us more dependent upon God, so that we don't think we can do it on our own. So rather than kind of throwing out the church's tradition, which is the temptation as we try to be new and innovative, the Jesus example would say to reach in to the church's tradition, to show our connection with the church's tradition, and perhaps to reinterpret for our time. And the community can do that as well, right? Yeah. So this reading is not about telling us what to do, but it's about telling us who we are, salt and light, and connected to the tradition that has gone before us. And if it's encouraging us not to do anything, it's encouraging us not to block who we are, to be true to who we are, because Jesus makes us different. Jesus makes us stand out and noticed, and even when that's uncomfortable and makes others uncomfortable, salt brings flavor and light brings clarity and direction. And that's what the church, I think, in our time might be called to be. So, looking forward to talk to the people of Christ Michigan Center on Sunday about being salt and light with their new pastor. This week is a quiet week for me, which I'm kind of delightful for because I have some writing to do. We have our Corinthian correspondence class Tuesday evening that is going just so really well. I am so grateful to Wally Taylor, my friend and teacher, and for the people who are coming to class. And it's kind of like a soothing bath in God's Word, comforting and stimulating. So thank you for the Corinthian class. Wednesday is staff meeting. Thursday is the Conference of Bishops meeting that I need to attend on Zoom. So those are kind of the highlights. I have some other appointments in between, but those three things are the highlights of my week. Last week's video got about 239 views, and I received a lot of comments on Synod Assembly display tables, which I really found interesting and helpful because I got to tell you, going to display tables is not my best thing because you look at the displays. Someone reminded me that in the good old days, the publishers used to come to Synod assemblies and bring lots of books and offer discounts. And so the attraction for display tables was the display tables were near the publishers, and you'd go and look at books and buy books and notice the displays. and now the publishers don't come anymore. Somebody else said that outside groups beyond the synod used to, support the Synod Assembly by making a financial contribution to have a display table, and that helped to defray the cost of the assembly. And groups aren't doing that anymore. We're grateful that Samaritas will sponsor maybe a reception, and what we seem to do is take money out of one category of the budget and put it in another, from the committees to the display tables. So they're really not helping defray the cost of the assembly. It's all money that comes for mission support. So that's another thought on display table. Somebody else said, these days, what gets college students to go to display tables at like the beginning of the school year is what they are giving away. And we need to do better than Tootsie Rolls. If we want to compete and really get people to come, and I got all kinds of suggestions. Somebody said like T-shirts. Then there was the Battle of the Donuts. Somebody said, well, we could have Cops and Donuts. We could have Quality Dairy Donuts. And then apparently there's a really good donut place in Kalamazoo so we could have, each table could bring donuts and we could have the Battle of the Donuts. Somebody asked for Mackinac Island fudge, for cherry pies from Traverse City. My favorite, I think, was beer from Grand Rapids, or pizza. I don't think anybody agrees on what pizza is the Michigan pizza, but there was request for pizza. So I found all this interesting about display tables. The Synod is not going to take money to buy lots of donuts, I don't think, as fun as that would be. And we're not going to give everybody a bar of Mackinac Island fudge. But it's fun to think about, isn't it? What it shows is how we have these things within our church, and how they change. And we try to do what was dear to us, what we've always done, and the circumstances may have rendered them obsolete. Who knows? But for me, the big one, of course, being a teacher and a scholar, is that, if the books aren't there from the publisher with the discounts, the display tables lose their luster. So I found that interesting. I think, thank you for everybody that reached out to talk about display tables. I shared what you told me, and I will remind you that the Synod Assembly webpage, we hope, will launch on the 15th of February. That is the plan. City Council meets, I think, on the 11th. So we'll learn more then. And then I just want to alert you finally that there will be a big social media announcement on Wednesday. We're rolling out an event both on my webpage and social media, and on the Synod social media. So watch for that, because we have some exciting new things coming, and we're gonna share them deliberately so that they can each have some time in the light, if you will. So that's what I'm thinking about today on this week of January 29th. Prayers for people who need them, what it means to be salt, for a community, the faith community, the church, to be salt and light, and to continue in and reinterpret the tradition, and what things that we maybe love and have always done, the circumstances have just so changed that maybe we won't be doing them anymore. All of this would make great conversation, and I invite you to have it. I'm Bishop Craig, and this is Take One, and may the peace of Christ be with you always. Take care.